A local minister stands accused of multiple rapes. Tonight, an exclusive talk with his granddaughter, who's leveling some of the most serious charges.
They're talking shoes in the O.J. trial today, shoe prints and whether they match O.J.'s foot size.
And this big boat's causing a big embarrassment on the Ohio River now on 19 News at 6.
From Cleveland Television News, this is 19 News at 6.
I see his face. It's
difficult, isn't it?
very difficult.
After 26 years, a painful secret is revealed, a secret of rape and incest. And a Lorain County minister stands accused. Good evening, I'm Denise DeFalla.
And I'm Emmett Miller. It's never easy for a woman to talk about the horror of rape and incest. It's even more difficult when the man being accused is her own grandfather and a respected minister. Tonight, there's a possibility of even more charges beyond those already filed. One alleged victim agreed to talk with our Mike O'Mara, coming forward after 20 years. Mike?
Over the weekend, the Reverend Artie Napier was charged with raping a 15-year-old girl. When his granddaughter saw that story, she decided to break her years of silence. And if what she claims is correct, there may be more victims just like her out there. Saturday, the Reverend Napier wouldn't talk about the charges, but wiped away a tear when confronted about the charge by 19 News. His granddaughter was watching television and said that was the final straw. It was time to go public after years of inner turmoil.
I just want to make sure that he does go behind bars for what he's done. He's ruined many lives over this.
Sarah Napier says the Reverend started raping her when she was 5 years old and continued till she was 11.
There's no way I could let it go. There's just no way. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of it. I mean, it hurt. This pain goes very deep. And a lot of people doesn't understand.
Why didn't you come forward when you were 18, though? Why not when you became an adult? Why didn't you?
I was scared. I didn't want to. I couldn't. I don't know how to answer that.
Sarah says that she knows at least 5 other young women that were molested by Reverend Napier.
I mean, if he'd done it to his granddaughter and then to how many others are there out there?
The Lorain County Sheriff has begun to investigate Sarah's story tonight. Meanwhile, the Reverend Napier will be arraigned on rape charges in that other case on Wednesday in Elyria. Back to you, Denise.
Thanks, Mike. Near Akron, a lot of folks are still out of their homes. First, there was a gas leak this weekend. Today, it caught fire. It happened in Franklin Township in Summit County at the Marathon Pipeline Company. This was the scene captured on amateur video. Thick, billowing black smoke, which could be seen for miles. The fire is still burning at this hour, but officials say it is under control. About 15 area residents had to leave their homes as a precautionary measure. The fire was touched off by crews trying to clean up Friday's 220,000-gallon spill. Crews hope it will eventually burn itself out. And while no one was seriously hurt in the fire, a police officer directing traffic around that spill was hit by a drunk driver Saturday. He is in serious condition. You can hear them all up and down the Ohio River, a resounding chorus of people saying, whoops. In the town of Hawesville, Kentucky, a giant steamboat is stuck in the mud on the banks of the Ohio. It's the American Queen, the biggest river steamboat on record. On its maiden voyage from New Orleans to Pittsburgh, it beached intentionally for some photographs. Then the water level dropped and it got stuck, all 418 feet of it. They've been trying to lighten the load by emptying fuel and water tanks, but so far no luck. And the 258 invited guests were never in any danger. Most of them were writers and travel agents, people intended to help market that big boat.
Remember the couple who made a daring plunge over Niagara Falls this weekend? Turns out the woman is from here. Lori Martin, Steve Trotter, they both built a high-tech contraption. It went over the falls. It survived. Well, rather, one of them survived. Martin's originally from Chillicothe, Ohio. Trotter's from Florida. It was her first plunge, his second. They'll have to wait to start bragging. Police were there waiting for him at the bottom right now. They're both in a Canadian jail. A 19 News follow-up on a bizarre crime that seems to have repeated itself after nearly 15 years. It's a domestic dispute that ended here. Jared Ray of Akron is behind bars tonight for the murder of his mother, which he says he didn't do. The 27-year-old pleaded not guilty today to charges of aggravated murder. Police say that Ann Ray was shot by her son Jared during a domestic dispute. Now, while they have no motive for the shooting, they say, ironically, Ann Ray's husband was killed by their son Gerald in 1981. Charges against Gerald were eventually dropped.
The murder trial of O.J. Simpson has moved from gloves to shoes. Eric Green is here now to explain.
This week, since the glove episode with Simpson didn't go so well last week, the prosecution is now trying to show that a shoe print left in blood at the crime scene came from Simpson's shoes. On the stand, FBI forensic expert Bill Bodziak. He has testified that the shoe print matches the mold of an upscale Italian shoe, Bruno Magli.
Yes, it had to have been made in that mold. There would be no other mold like it.
Bodziak says the shoes and the shoe prints are the equivalent of an American size 10, the same size as a pair of Simpson sneakers that the witness examined. He explained how he made the match.
Putting these over these impressions, the precise configuration of the design elements, as I had mentioned before, and how they meet the borders, they are visible in this print, as well as the design element and fragments of the border, which were up in this area and made from respective areas of the shoe, correspond.
So they have moved on to shoes, but the prosecution is not quite done with the gloves yet. Christopher Darden says more gloves have been seized from Simpson's house, and all are extra large, just like the one Simpson tried on last week. But of course, the president of the glove company says they had actually shrunk about 15%. Emmett?
All right, thank you very much, Eric. A firefighter who went down in the line of duty 16 years ago will finally be laid to rest. Edward Carey was the former captain of the 2nd Battalion in Cleveland. He was putting out an arson fire at an abandoned school when a staircase collapsed underneath him. He spent the next 16 years in a coma and died yesterday. Family members say their only comfort knows and comes from knowing that he, right now, is with God.
You wouldn't get up and think about it, and you wouldn't think, gee, Dad has to spend another day in that hospital bed. I wish things were different. Right. So it's a peaceful feeling to know that he can finally be at rest.
True. Firefighters who knew Carey say he was a fine leader, a good man. Edward Carey was 68 years old.
Well, some sick little kids in one local hospital just got a big boost. The pediatric unit at Lakewood Hospital got 600 new books today, all for the reading pleasure of children who have to stay there. And it's all thanks to the Phi Beta Phi sorority. The idea is to make the hospital experience a little... all of those kids. That's the Pi Beta Phi. Sorry, guys.
Pi Beta Phi.
Pi Beta Phi. I never was good at those Greek things.
Yeah, it's a little tough. Heat wave out there.
Yes, indeed. It is very warm outside. The question is, how hot did it get? Did we set a record? And how long is it going to stay this hot? Well, we have some good and bad news mixed in with all that, which we'll get to in weather.
Okay. Tribe's still technically hot, and you know the Tribe has the best record in baseball, but Reds are pretty hot stuff right now, too. And up next, why some folks are already talking about an I-71 World Series.
And good baseball isn't our only common bond with our neighbors to the south. We both have stadium trouble. One tax-free funding idea that they're looking at, coming up next.
It'd be good for Ohio, if both of them did it, yeah.
Already the fans are talking about the impossible. Come October, Cleveland Indians fans could be seeing red. Cincinnati red, that is.
Yeah. If two of the hottest teams in baseball stay on top, it'll be an all-Ohio series. Too early to dream? Our Scott Newell says, no way.
The rubber on I-71 will be as hot as the rubber on the mound if Cleveland meets Cincinnati in the World Series. And even though it's only June, already sports radio fans are talking about it.
The Indians about 100 games left to go in the season, but you never know.
Reds are on top of the National League Central. The Indians have the best record in baseball, and both have clubs that are built for the long haul.
Sports fans love catchy names. For example, if a hitter is not hitting 200, he's said to be on the interstate. So naturally, there'd be a name for a series between Cleveland and Cincinnati. The I-71 series.
The great series in the beginning of all labeling were the Subway series in New York City. You had an I-70 series between the Royals and the Cardinals about a decade ago.
This mini civil war between Ohio's north and south would be just that much more excitement for the fans if there were Cincinnati faithful scattered throughout Jacobs Field.
I think it'd be great. I really would. I think it'd be a lot of fun. You know, I don't think it would be nasty or anything.
With I-71 ready and waiting, Indians fans can only hope that Ohio's two top teams stay as hot as today's pavement. Scott Newell, 19 News.
And there's probably only one thing the folks in the Indians front office are disappointed about when talking about a possible I-71 World Series. Cincinnati could have one extra game played there because this year it's the National League's turn to have home field advantage.
And that being said, Cincinnati and Cleveland have something else in common as well. We both need new stadiums, and we both haven't got the money to pay for them. Right now, both the Reds and the Bengals share Riverfront Stadium. And there's talk that the Bengals may move to Baltimore unless they get a new home. Now, a Cincinnati businessman says that he's got a way to keep the Bengals without raising taxes. His idea is to build a $250 million domed stadium and then finance it through the pension funds of retired construction workers. This week, he's going to take that idea to a stadium task force and see what they think.
Well, we know a lot of you are just as excited as we are about the opening of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So we're going to start bringing you daily updates on how the Rock Hall is coming along. Today, they're bringing in trees for the center circle in the Rock and Roll Plaza. The landscaping company is ahead of schedule, so at least from a gardening standpoint anyway, they should be fine for the Labor Day weekend opening.
Ooh, feel excitement already.
It's going to be fun.
Quite a Father's Day for one new dad out there. He didn't get a tie. No, not at all. He got quadruplets. Details coming up.
And if you love to eat raw oysters, wait till you hear what we have to tell you about them. That's up next.